examples. That's not really my big thing here. The whole purpose of this was to get you guys to work together in your teams. I'm willing to bet that if I took you all aside and if you're all completely honest with me, I bet we covered the full spectrum of how teams work together. I'll bet there's at least one team where somebody said, screw it. Listen, I'll do it. I'll bring it to class. I'll do the presentation. Okay, we're done with it, okay? And on the other end of the spectrum, I bet some people who actually got together and had talks and drew out some stuff and came up with some, concepts and stuff like that. Cool. All right? That's the way life is and stuff like that. If you didn't get together, if you didn't plan things out, then you missed an opportunity, right? Because in real life, in real problems, that's how teams actually work. You don't just hand it off to one person and have them do it. So there's all sorts of really good things about teams, and these are the things you guys have always been told forever and ever and ever, right? So in theory, you get more and better ideas. So for those of you who did work in a team, did you guys have multiple ways of doing this? You come up with a bunch of ideas? Were they lame ideas? Were there some lame ideas that you quickly rejected? Oh, listen, thanks for making that suggestion. Llama, llama, llama. All right, great. More hands to do the work, so you had more people, right? More people were coming up with ideas, more people were evaluating the ideas you came up with, more people were saying that idea sucks, let's not do it. Even though it may have been your idea, it seemed like a great idea to you. It's easy to do things, right? Just do it. You've got people. Just go ahead and do it. You don't have to really do a lot of planning and a lot of stuff like that. This is one that hopefully didn't come up, but unplanned events won't prevent project completion. Now, we were just there on a holiday weekend, right? So maybe one of your team members takes off for Labor Day to go do something fun and adventurous, and they're gone, right? If they were the only one doing it, the project would have stopped, but there's 3 others of you potentially it continues on. You can do things in parallel. You really didn't have to do that much for this particular project, but if you had to sketch out a design or write something up, you could assign that to different people. They could work on it at the same time. The goal is that it could be done a lot quicker than if it was just you doing it, right? Otherwise, you're making this list. Draw a picture, write this out, whatever the scoop is, right? And then finally, you can learn from others while doing the project. I'm sure you're quite smart, but you don't know everything in the world, right? So if somebody's there to help you, you can actually learn from them. So that's got to be a good thing. Now, the flip side, there's a darker side to teams, right? It's hard to reach decisions. We saw the team that had 2 people come up and give their presentations, right? This is one way to do it. Oh, by the way, this was my idea that got rejected by the team, but I thought it was a really good idea. Well, of course. We all feel that, right? Not everybody does the same amount of work. Every team has a slacker. Somebody who's just not pulling their own weight, and doggone it, what's up with that? And so if you work really hard, and if your team gets a really good grade, are they going to get the same grade as your team? Will they have done the same amount of work that you did? Is that fair?
That's life. Get over it real quick.
Exactly. All right. Is it hard to coordinate actions? You've got 4 people with different schedules and different things going on, and they're in different locations. If you want to do something, you have to get them all to agree, right? Pain in the butt. If it's just you, how many people do you have to get to agree? You just have to stop doing whatever you're doing and start doing this, right? So it's sort of a pain in the butt. And oh, by the way, those meetings. Let's get together. Let's talk about what we're going to do with the design project. Oh God, you got other things to do. That's taking time out of your busy schedule. So teams go both ways, guys. They are very valuable, and actually they're probably more valuable than they're not valuable. But there's a downside to doing teams. Okay? And you need to balance the 2. You need to understand the world's made up of both sides. Okay? All right, let's take we have a few minutes left. Shall we tackle an ethics issue? One of those sticky, nasty things. Who's this gentleman? This is Raj. Raj was a very, very wealthy stock trader. He was doing really well for himself. He started, I believe, a mutual fund, if I recall correctly. Unfortunately, Raj decided he wanted to do even better, and he found a way to do that. What he found is that he could get information about deals that had not happened yet. And when he got that information, he could make trades based on the information that nobody else had, which is a great way to make money. I mean, you could really make a killing if you know 2 companies are going to merge, or if somebody's going to have really bad quarterly results. If you know that ahead of time before everybody else, you can either buy their stock or sell their stock before everybody else does, and you make a killing. It's fantastic. But it's also highly illegal. All right? Concept, the way the markets work is everybody's supposed to have the same information that everybody else has. right? Raj decided he wanted to do that, so he was really wealthy, he became even more wealthy, and now he's in jail and doesn't have any cash because they took it all away from him. And he's doing actually some serious time. They wanted to make an example of him. So clearly, lack of ethical judgment there. All right, so here's the case study for today. And this one's actually pretty common, guys. All right, so you're working at a company. You've got somebody who works for you. Bad news. She's got, shall we say, a problem, specifically a drinking problem. And that spills over into work because she's showing up late and she's doing lousy work. So you do what every company in the world does, you fire her. Story's done, that's fine, you did all the right things, you had all the paperwork in line, so in case she decides to sue, everything gets taken care of. Fabulous. Time goes on. You get a phone call from her later on. She says, hey, listen, I'm applying for a job at another company, and I need 3 references. So I'm going to use you as, I've used you as one of my references. You know, if they call you, and oftentimes they do call, could you be so kind as to not mention, A, the fact that I was fired, or B, that I had a drinking problem, okay? I've got what? I'm a single parent, I've got 3 kids, you know, I think I'm telling you I got my act back together, okay? I'm not drinking anymore, I've really cleaned up my act and stuff like that. And you liked her. When she was working at a company, you had some issues with it, but you liked her as a person. So this is all good stuff. You sort of doubt that she's gotten over her drinking problem, for whatever reason. You think that's still a monkey that's on her back, okay? But, now the question is, oh, I'm sorry, the other thing is, if she applied to your company to come back, you would not hire her back. Now, the question is, are you willing to act as a reference for her?
Yes or no?
If she looks like that.
All right, so let's take a look at the yes. Samuel, what do you got?
Well, there's nothing wrong with giving a reference, but after you're done, you're going to have to say the actual facts why she was dismissed.
So you're saying act as a reference, but be honest and say she did shoddy work and we fired her.
Yeah, I would.
So clearly she's not going to get the job with that kind of reference.
Well, I gave the reference she asked for.
So your hands are clean.
I'm going to give as much positive information as I can, but then I have to.
So 3 children are going to probably starve, Samuel. But you feel good.
Sometimes you got to be starting on the top.
She's not applying for your company. I don't see what the problem is.
Right. You know,
Don't make their decision.
Does it hurt you?
whatever. Yeah, she was here. And by the way, you like her, right? She's a good person. And she says she cleaned up her act, right? So based on what she's told you, do you think she has a drinking problem? Is it possible that she does not?
She's not hiring for your company.
Yeah,
Even if she did develop hard, you know, drinking problem, she's asking you to lie for her.
She is asking you to lie for her. But I mean, it's not that big of a lie.
So?
Well, is it going to come back to you? I mean, you don't know who's going to call out for the reference.
Yeah, it comes back to you. One way or another, it sours your name in your line of work, and it will come around.
You think so? Another.
Well, I was gonna say, like, if you had to say why she dismissed, then you tell the truth. But if they don't ask why she was, and say, yeah, she worked. But then if they come back and say, oh, well, how did she was drinking? You're like, we didn't know.
So it all depends on what questions they ask you during the reference check.
That's kind of thing get bad enough to where most human resources, they won't even say it. They'll call human resource for a reference, they won't tell why she was fired or how she was. They say she worked there from here to here, and that's it. They won't tell you nothing
Yeah,
else.
but what happens if they call you at home? And say, hey, look, man, we're a small company. We don't have a lot of people. She looks really good on paper. You know, and if she comes, it's going to be a big part of our bottom line. You know, because we all have to pull together. Should we hire her?
Then you say no.
What are you going to say? No, my corporate legal. Come on, you know.
Say no, and then that's just, it's the truth. Man.
Then you're not.
And then she stops.
Did I mention the 3 children?
Wait.
They're getting pretty hungry and they need medical attention. All right. So it's interesting, right? Because do you have any relationship with the person who's asking you for, when you have a relationship with her, but the person who calls you up checking out her reference, do you have any relationship with them?
No.
Are you ever going to meet them? Are they going to be in that job for very long, or will they move on? So even if you give a reference and she turns out to be crappy, you could be, who knew? I didn't know she had those problems, right? So is this going to go back to
she's looking for a job that's similar to what you do because that's what her experience is.
Could be.
what if that's a company that you have dealings with?
And it could be, right? Another.
What if she was applying to be an EMT? But then you can't use the argument, well, she has starving children. Oh, then she killed somebody for negligence.
Well, she could also be a machine operator, right? Forklift operator or something like that. You
And
could
she's
also
trying
somebody
somebody.
out. Or she could be a pilot.
She could drive Steve Long's truck.
Oh, you know, who knows? You know, well, that brings up an interesting point. Does it matter what type of job we're talking about? If we're talking about a secretarial position, who cares? If we're talking about something that has life and limb associated with it, maybe it's a bigger deal. If she's a banker, who fucking cares? Does that matter? If you're a teacher, does it matter if you've got a drinking problem?
Yes.
Yes.
The children to shade the real issue.
So we're just about out of time. So here's the key thing, guys. You can go either way on that one, right? That's a sloppy, nasty one of those ethical problems. So we already talked about the fact that there's no silver bullet. There's nothing that says, oh, this is the right answer and this is the wrong answer, right? Really what we need to do is we need to build what's called an ethical framework. We need to give you some sort of structure that when these issues come along, you can evaluate them within that structure and go, this is how I feel. This is the decision that I make. The worst thing that you can do is make a shoot from the hip. Yes, no, whatever. You need to think it through. You need to make sure that it lines up with who you are as a person. So the first part of an ethical decision-making framework is, first of all, how do you recognize these things? When they show up, they don't actually have a flashing light that says this is an ethical issue. First thing is, you got to think about it, for example, what you have for lunch today. Great question, probably a really important question, not an ethical question. Okay? Could this decision or situation be damaging to somebody or some group? Okay, so it's really the ramifications of the question that's before you. Does it affect other people? If it doesn't, who cares? It's not an ethical issue. And then, is it more about, is it about what's legal or most efficient? Legality is a huge issue. We talked about the fact that just if you follow the law, it doesn't make you ethical, right? Because laws can be screwed up, right? That's a key issue that you got to take it. Or is it just what's the most efficient? In the case that we talked about, what's the easiest thing to do? She asked you for a reference. What's the easiest thing to do?
Say no. The phone call.
Easiest thing to do is to say yes, right? When they call up and say, hey, is she a good worker? You say yes. Then just the whole thing goes away, right? You don't have to think about it at all.
Some people actually have a conscience, and that one.
So that's an
It's
issue.
easier to say no and deal with the stalking. And
Oh, you say no. Who are you gonna get a call from?
her lawyers.
She's gonna call you, right? Well, what's she gonna say? Why'd you say no? I thought we were friends.
The easiest
How
thing to
did
do
you
is
do
have
that
nothing
to
to
me?
The easiest thing to do is
Timmy
say
and
nothing to
Susie and Johnny, look, you're in the
We're gonna get taken
background.
away by the government instead.
Oh, so the government takes care of all of your ethical lapses. Okay.
Yeah, as far as this whole thing goes, it's just not selling her, just concentrating on what you remember that was good about her. So you're not doing anything wrong, and never come back to you, and I don't see the problem.
So there we get down to the crux of the ethical issue, right?
She made a
So
mistake.
which way do you go? Do you fall on the favor side of
She
her,
has rights.
a friend, or do you fall on the favor of, no, I'm taking the moral high ground and I won't ever tell a lie type of deal? You can go either way on this one, but ultimately it's going to be your
But is it
decision.
really lying though when you're just not?
Telling the truth.
It's not telling the truth. It's not being honest.
Hey, Raj! All right, you get the gist of it. All right, guys. What did we do today? So you worked together as a team to solve a problem for the second time. Congratulations. You made it through that. You should be very proud of yourselves. You've come together as a team one way or another. You know how the other people in your team think now. So you're starting to gel on that one. You know your issues. You know the things you have to work through. You've discovered how your team works together. You all know how to pull off a high school prank. I don't know if that's valuable, but if you ever have a bunch of tires and a flagpole, you'll have an idea there. And we started the process of building an ethical decision-making framework and found out that it's tricky to give references. All right, what we're going to do next time, we're going to talk about a design problem statement, which is a great place to start. I'm going to be handing out the multi-part team assignments. Those teams come back on. Everybody, thank you very much, and we'll see you on Thursday.